everybody would stand, please. Okay.
Please bow your heads and pray with me. Dear Lord, we come before you this evening and we thank you for blessings of this day that you've given us, the wonderful rainwater that makes everything grow. We ask that you watch over our meeting this evening and guide our hearts and minds to make decisions that are in the best interest of our water system and its members. Lord, we ask that you watch over and protect our military men and women, our first responders, all those who work to keep us safe and free every day. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. Y'all ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I would like to announce we have a quorum today. We have 5 of the 6 of us. We had one member that could not make it tonight. Rob could not make it. Audio and video recorders are in use, and if anybody wants to address the board, we just ask you to fill out the member form sign-up sheet to address the board, which is out there in the lobby. And I've got it here. Thank you so much. First thing we would like to do is an employee recognition, and I'm going to let Mr. Krigler talk about Mr. Jeremy Blankenship.
Yeah, tonight we're recognizing Jeremy Blankenship. He has 30 years with the company, which is impressive. I think, him, you, and Buddy probably are the 3 with that many. Is that right? Junior's got 30-something. Yeah. So it's impressive. He currently is in our wastewater group, works out at the Holly plant. Couldn't be here tonight, but David, I think you're going to sign the thing for him, and we've got a gift for him as well that we'll do that.
That's right here. 30 years of service. That's incredible.
Yep.
All right.
Appreciate that service.
Yeah, no kidding. That's awesome. All right, and before we move into the approval of minutes, I'm going to ask Mr. Dunaway to give us an update on the lawsuit that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Chairman. And the board was given a copy of the order which is setting a bench trial and discovery deadlines as a result of our hearing that was held on June the 4th. That order came out on June the 10th. Again, this is a public order. This bench trial has been set for September the 11th, 2025 at 1 p.m. 4 hours has been reserved for that trial. It was our request to Judge Duncan was that he set it in time for us to have the final hearing in order to keep to our schedule for the elections for this next cycle. And so we were pleased that Judge Duncan found time on his calendar to be able to hear that. This likely will have us making decisions at our September board, which would be 5 days after this hearing, as opposed to our August board, which is normally where you would set and approve your election cycle. So it won't delay it, and we've had staff meetings. We believe we can make up that timeline, and we will be asking the judge for a timely order. But all of the evidence will be presented at the final hearing on the 11th.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Will. Appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to move into the approval of minutes and transcripts. Let's see here. All right. This would be the May 20th, 2025 regular meeting minutes and transcripts. I'm sure everybody has had a chance to look through that. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for May 20th, 2025 regular meeting?
So moved.
Okay, Carmen, thank you.
Second.
And I've got a second from Mike. Usually no discussion on these things, but so we've got a motion and a second to approve the May 20, 2025 regular meeting. All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. The motion passes 5-0. And the memberships, May, new memberships were 284, canceled memberships were 280, and there were 0 transfers. Do I have a motion to approve the memberships for May?
So moved.
All right,
Second.
Mark and Carmen. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes 5-0. All right, now we move into the unfinished business, and this is the lovely insurance discussions. We love insurance. That was a joke.
Come on, man.
Huntington Water System Insurance Renewal Package Policies. Underwood Anderson.
Yeah, I'll introduce, we have Alex Niedermeyer here from Underwood Anderson. We're thankful that he came over to present on these. And before we get started, I just want to point out a reminder that in the back of your financials, which is tab 3 there under new business, at the very end, and we include this every month, is our insurance summary tracking sheet, which shows the policies with their expiration dates and costs for each of the 4 entities, including Fairpoint. So we're going to be considering 2 different entities tonight, Holly Navarre first, and then the club at Hidden Creek. So that's always good to refer to when you want to look at things like I said, the expiration dates and what we're currently paying. You'll notice tonight that we have 4 different types of insurance for Holly Navarre expiring. We have the workers' comp, what we call the package policy. We have the wind and the umbrella. So Alex is going to tell us about those. Alex, go ahead.
Okay. You guys have, we've had you all insured with, we've been writing the insurance for Holly Navarre now absolutely over 15 years. It may be close to 20 maybe. It may be more than that, truthfully. I've been with the agency since 2007, and I've been coming out here with my predecessor since then, just about. And we've always appreciated you guys, and it's been really good to work with. The program that, for most of those years you guys have been with, we've put you with, is Grundy. Grundy is actually the National Association of Water Companies. And then you have the Rural Water Associations, Florida Rural Water, National Rural Water, Alabama Rural Water, of which we are members of as well. The National Association of Water Companies, Grundy is their partnered preferred program, period. Rural waters don't really have one. They kind of leave it to the independent folks to find one. The only one that they really like to kind of talk about that's only really available in Florida anymore, and that's the asterisk next to it, is Florida, which has become what it is today, a little bit more challenging than a lot of the other states, what with weather and lawsuits, et cetera, is a company called Watercolor. They're actually out of Decatur, Alabama. We've reached out to them several times about all the old ones that we write. We write a total of about 12 different water systems, 9 of which are with Grundy. The rest of them are with a company called Glatfelter, which can be good, but they have their pricing has put themselves way out, which we also approached. I'll get into here in a minute. But Grundy is bar none the program. The only downside to Grundy is they have just gotten away from wind in Florida, like most companies have. So they have been killer for years and years and years. Yes, rate increases. We've seen those every year now, probably for 3-4 years straight, just about. So it's kind of keeping with what's going on in the insurance business right now. But they are still leaps and bounds from a pricing standpoint, better than anybody else. So much so, I don't know, you guys tell me what you guys would prefer. We can go through the coverages line by line, or can I keep talking about kind of maybe the marketing strategies that we hit? Is that okay?
Any suggestions from the board?
Yeah, I like the big picture, the summary that you're doing,
Yeah.
so,
Okay,
yeah.
keep going the way I'm going.
We may have some individual line questions, but
Sure.
keep going with where you're going.
Okay. So let's talk about that, because it's usually about the marketing of the accounts, right? if you'll look on page, it says 40 of 43. We've got several carriers there. Glatfelter, again, historically, has been the number 2 company that we use. Again, 9 out of the 12 that we insure are with Grundy. The other 2 are with Glatfelter, and one of them is with a different carrier. It's a super small little system, so it doesn't really fit the program. But again, leaps and bounds, Grundy is on all of those. Glatfelter declined to quote because we are above board with everybody. We tell everybody what the premiums are, and we let them fight over each other, which does happen sometimes, not so much this year, but it does happen. And as you can see, the declines are, okay, you've got some losses, but even if we were to quote it, we just can't touch the premium. We just can't touch it. The CRI, we didn't spell that out. That is called captive risk insurance. There's a type of insurance programs that are coming out more and more called captive insurance programs. And it's basically like a policyholder-owned company, okay, where the policyholders are the owners of the entity. Right now, there are no captive insurance programs for water systems, probably mostly because there's too much that can go wrong. Most captive insurance products don't want anything to do with residential construction, period, just because of suits, construction defects. It's not a matter if, it's a matter of when, just because the controls aren't as tight with residential stuff. So I think that's part of the reason. Every now and again, they may say, we'll do the workers' comp and maybe we'll do the autos. But between those two, you've got to have premiums in excess of about $300K just on those 2 items. And you guys aren't really there. If we were to pull the autos out of the Grundy program, this is just for a little bit of perspective, I think there's 70-something units. 45 of those are trucks. Just on the trucks, if we took the trucks and said, let's insure them with auto owners or travelers or whomever, it would be easily over $200,000 just for the automobiles. In the Grundy program, you guys are at just a shade over 91,000, something like that. And I say autos because autos are probably the biggest problem in Florida right now, if you can believe that. The property insurance is actually starting to soften a little bit. On the commercial side, on the homeowner side, not so much. Mine's up $1,000 this year, and we shop that out. But commercial property, we're starting to see some softening. But that just gives a little bit of perspective on the strength of Philly's paper is the auto premium. I think we kind of keep waiting on the average price for an auto with Grundy to go to what everybody else is, which is about $5,000 per unit per year. It's crazy expensive. 5 years ago, you could probably pay $3,000 per truck, and it's just I don't know, Florida, hurricanes, floods, lawsuits, all the things, man. Auto insurance is the only line of coverage that really hits all of those. They get affected by all of it. So
excuse me, can I ask you how the number of drivers factors in, or does it in establishing the policy amount?
No, ma'am, it does not. It's either they're acceptable or they're not, based on an MVR.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. So saying all that to say, usually the auto insurance is the leading driver of the premium, and here it's almost kind of in line with the property values. I think the pure property premium ended up being about, and y'all didn't get this exact breakdown, I had our underwriter give us these, but the pure property premium ends up being about $120,000 out of this total premium here, with the autos being $90,000. So with all that being said, in years past, even I want to say last year, Glatfelter actually gave us a number. We said thank you very much, but no thank you, because it was about double what even last year's was, and in this year they said we just don't want anything to do with it. And I think it's mostly because we're in Florida. North end of the county, they can be a little bit more competitive because it's the north end of the county. and you don't get this whole wind shear thing. Everybody's just petrified at 98 because hurricanes. So shopped it long and hard. Watercolor, again, is the only other kind of noted company with the Rural Water Association. And again, they're out of Alabama. They're very nice people. We talked to them almost excessively and almost had to push them to try to give us an option. And then they started adding up the GL and some of the other coverages and just said, there's just no way. In their rating software, we're just not going to be able to touch. Pidgeot is another one, preferred governmental insurance trust. Once again, sometimes they're hot and sometimes they're not. This year they just have no interest, can't compete. Again, based mostly on the premium for the autos. And honestly, guys, that's really it. The marketing summary. Yes, the rate is up. I mean, you know, the system is growing. The sales are up a little bit. Payroll's up a little bit. We've got a few more autos. When you replace old autos with new autos, they're just more expensive to insure. Not a huge bunch of autos, but a few. So it does make a little bit of a difference. And then the property valuations. Since Hurricane Sally, I think we talked about this last year, but property values, cost per square foot, I don't think they're eking up much anymore, but I think after the engineers, everybody was kind of looking at property values, there were some adjustments that were made on some of the buildings. We got to where we started, I think we scheduled all of the generators this year, where we haven't done that before. That was a suggestion from underwriting. Is depending on what the size of the generator is, they may cover it or they may not. So it's probably best to just schedule it, which we did. Because you don't want to find out that you're not good when we want to go turn in a claim. So the system has grown. Yes, the rates are up. We can't discredit that. But between you guys growing and just the increased rates in the state and us just shopping it 10 times to Wednesday, Grundy just consistently, they're just the ones that just can't be beat. They really can't. And I'd say it even with the increase that you guys see. We keep saying every year, I hope Grundy doesn't get out of Florida altogether, because if they do, it'll be pretty wild. Premiums will be probably double this easily. You know, somewhere close to $600K if we were to break it all out and then put it together. Questions?
Alex, I have a question. Out of the four insurances that we're voting to renew, which one increased the most?
I think the rate on the general liability and the property rate. The property rate certainly went up.
Now, does the age of the vehicles have anything to do with the auto rate?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. I mean.
Now, we have some new trucks, so
right.
Would that mean that that's why?
Yes, ma'am.
It has increased. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it's all 60-something thousand of the increase. Okay. I mean, again, that just the overall rate increases that are happening in Florida exist. But I think there's, I don't know, maybe 5 new trucks, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's not a crazy amount of vehicles, but they are going to be slightly more than an older truck is going to be. Yes.
Okay.
What about the wind coverage? We're not going to have wind coverage moving forward?
Well, if you remember last year, Grundy said, hey, here's your renewal. It's up. And oh, by the way, we're not going to give you wind, right? Last year's board meeting was really fun for me. So we went to the side and we decided, okay, well, let's just get wind on the stuff we really feel like needs wind, which is this building, right? This location across the street. That number is in this proposal. That's part of that amount.
It actually went down.
And it actually went down a little bit.
Is that the commercial sector insurance brokers?
Yes, separate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Separate company.
So that's kind of the example of we are seeing some softening on the commercial side of the property insurance. Is they, truthfully, I think they all made their money back in like 1 year. When they jacked their rates up, by the third quarter of last year, we were starting to see some softening on rates on the property. And then all the publications that we get at the office, Insurance Journal and whatever else were, record profits from the insurance businesses by the third and fourth quarters. So I think that, A, people want wind coverage, and B, they have notes, so they have to have it. It's kind of like State Farm way back after Hurricane Ivan, that were doubling and tripling, and people had to have it, and they were buying it. So they made their money back way faster than I think they thought they were going to. So case in point, we see a little bit of rate reductions here. And carriers wanting to get competitive again. I mean, these guys don't make money if they don't write policies, which is exactly why we're full bore. We tell everybody, here's how much the premiums are, here's the rates, and like I said earlier, we just let them fight it out, so to speak. So yeah.
Alex,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to ask 3 questions.
Sure.
Does Citizens get involved in commercial structures at all?
Yes, ma'am, but not utilities,
Okay.
not water utilities.
All right. And when you said Grundy ceased to cover wind, that forced you then to look at other carriers to make up that shortfall. So with regard to the Holly Navarre water system building here and across the street, you found AmRisc that's covering wind only.
Yes, ma'am.
But then for the club at Hidden Creek, you had to go to Frontline, and what's the property X Wind with Scottsdale Insurance Company. It says Scottsdale Insurance Company for property X.
X means without.
Without
Means
wind.
without.
Okay,
right.
without wind, and then Frontline's covering the wind
Yes, ma'am.
for the club at
The
Hidden
wind
Creek.
only, yeah. So like with Holly Navarre, Grundy is still covering for lightning, fire, okay? Anything other than wind, okay? I should not say anything because there are certain exclusions, but lightning really is probably the biggest one. I'm kind of a big proponent of the math has to math. These guys have heard me say it 100 times. I mean, the carriers, they know what they're doing. At 5% wind hail deductible, you're pretty much buying your own roof and maybe something else before these policies ever pay out. So am and still am a huge proponent of let's do the math here, okay? What's the likelihood of you guys having to clear a wind deductible to even get a check from these guys after you pay them $100,000 a year? So, they've got it figured out, which is why we chose, well, I didn't. These guys chose this property and the property across the street as the most valuable pieces to cover for the wind, that is.
And so what determined that you use AmRisc for the buildings here and then you go with Frontline for the golf course?
Sure. Frontline doesn't want utilities either. They don't want water utility stuff.
But they want golf courses?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Thank
It's just exposure. Honestly, I think Frontline they do a great job, actually. It's a really good policy. It covers probably more than a lot of other types of policies like that. But with lightning and, again, utilities is just not something they want to deal with. A golf course is like, it's a building, it's there, it's fine. There's no water, there's no schematics in it, they don't understand water system. Frontline says thanks, but no thanks. We don't know enough about them to be comfortable. AmRisc we use a lot for those types of things. And it's actually a great policy too. But they usually want updates, right? They're not going to cover wind on a building if it doesn't have updates. Well, they've done really good renovations on this building. The building across the street, honestly, I think all they wanted it to have was a newer roof, which it has. But AmRisc does a really good job. A lot of insurance agents, we use them a lot in Florida right now, as long as it will meet their criteria.
So, Alex, what we're looking at here is a 15.8% increase over last year. Are there any recommendations that you would make to this board and the CEO and the members of this water system going into next year, understanding this increase this year?
Risk management, keeping losses down, honestly. One of the biggest driving factors is, again, auto insurance is a big deal. Lightning strikes, it seems like we're Tornado Alley all of a sudden in the last 5 years somehow. So that has kind of changed the dynamic of how they charge for our particular area. But risk management from mostly, there's nothing you can do about wind, okay? The lightning strikes, the wind blows, heaven forbid, fires happen. But mostly on risk management on auto fleets is probably the biggest thing. Because as you can tell in here, a lot of them declined just based on, and not that you guys' autos losses are really that bad. We have other systems that are a lot worse, and Grundy's still on them. But that's probably that and worker safety, right? Workers' comp, which is not part of Grundy. And work comp rates are down again for like the 5th year in a row, roughly 10%. We're great. We're glad to have it and deliver that on. I don't think anybody can really figure that out because it seems like there's more suits with injured employees than there ever has been, so nobody really understands that. But we'll take it while we can get it. And workers' comp usually gives like a safety dividend, right? So if you go all year with no losses or the percentage of your losses is, 8% or less, they give you 10% of your premium back or 20% of your premium back. I'm totally forgetting what Zurich's is. I think it's, I want to say it's 15. It might be 18% this year. We'll double check that. And they continue to do that. And your experience mod goes down with injured employees, right? So if the more years you have fewer injured employees, you have an experience mod. It's a whole math equation that's based on your premium and payroll. And that number can go down a couple of points per year, which ends up being maybe 2%, maybe 4%. So risk management and management of your people, and you guys are a great system. I think y'all have a lot of good things in place. Zenith is usually always very complimentary of you guys. Safety meetings are all there. Everybody's following the correct protocols.
And one thing I would add there is Zenith comes in and does a defensive driving course. I think that's twice a year they come in. Twice a year? Yeah, they come in twice a year and do that for us. That's important. So make sure all our operations guys attend one of those sessions.
So just continuing, that's a really long answer to your short question, but just continued good employee management, honestly. Seems to be good. And then just following the rates, honestly, we work these things hard. Jonathan, who's my account executive on y'all's account now, was on vacation all last week, and he was working at 7 o'clock at night and sending stuff out to market and asking me questions and as we were working through it all. So we've been working with you guys a long time, and we greatly value the relationship, which is why we try to put just as much value in it as possible.
Looking at the renewal periods for the different policies that we have,
yes,
most of the policies renew July 1st, but we've got some that renew in March and December and October.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do
yes,
to align those
yes,
so that they're...
We're doing it now.
We're doing it now. Okay.
We're doing it now.
All right.
Yes. Like everybody on Holly Navarre, the other carriers that aren't 7/1 renewals, we did that, and it actually says it in here on the, no, that's on the club. The club we did it, which is would be the next conversation, I guess. But yes, anything that's not renewing on 7/1, we're getting that change.
Like, for instance, pollution liability, that's going to renew in October. Could we go ahead and renew that now?
So what we do to line up effective dates is when it gets to the end of the policy period, we just talk to the underwriter or the broker and say, hey, here's what we want to do. And they say, okay, no problem. And they just charge you for 4.5 months or whatever it is. So they'll just write a short policy term to get it to catch up with the rest of the policies.
Okay, so we need to be looking at the expiration dates, not the start dates on them.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And they're always willing to help us do that. It's essentially they just take the rate that's on the existing policy and just extend it out.
All
Mr. Krigler, this increase in the renewal premiums of $63,079.39, is that cumulatively including 1 and 2, the club at Hidden Creek? Is that our total exposure?
No, item 1 is only the Holly Navarre policies.
Okay, that's what I was
Yeah.
worried about.
Yeah, the club's separate conversation.
Whole nother discussion.
Right, and is there there's a
Which we're
line
gonna have
item
next.
for that? Is there a,
Yes, there's 4 options that we're going to go over.
Okay.
We haven't put in the totals because I think there's going to be a discussion had by the board on that.
All right.
I'll make this comment too. We really went back and forth a lot about lift stations and are we listing those? Why should we list? Again, it's highly scrutinized every year. We come in here and it's every location and what are we doing and why are we doing it?
And I would add there was a big scrubbing of the assets when Barbara got back. It's almost
Yes.
been a 2-year process to
Yes.
get that where it needs to be because when you came back, it was just a little out of date in terms of the lift stations and some of the equipment. And Barbara's done a lot of work getting it really up to date on what we have and make sure everything's insured properly.
So I say all that to say the conversation there for a while is well, these lift stations are basically flush with the ground. I mean, why are we, can't we take those off and try to save ourselves some premium? So I said, yeah, let's entertain it. Let's talk about it. So we went back to Grundy and essentially, all the pipes that are underground and all that is covered up to a sub amount, but it's still covered, okay? Well, the likelihood that it's going to get ruptured is going to come from a lift station getting hit, right? Or if a car runs into a lift station or something. Now, hopefully their auto insurance hopefully they have insurance, number one. That's one of the problems in Florida. And 2, they have enough insurance to maybe cover that particular lift station, okay? If they don't, you got insurance to deal with it, and they'll try to subrogate and get it, and that's how that works. So if we took off all the lift stations and said, well, maybe we'll save some premium on property values, it kind of negates that location from being insured, the underground pipes and all that. So we left those on. But I want to throw that in there because we do entertain that every year. And sometimes it's several years, and the program changes a little bit, and depending on the barometer of the underwriter or the attitude of the underwriter, he may say, yeah, okay, I'll do that for you, or whatever. And we have a lot of business with Grundy, and they're always really good to work with. Just sometimes can't help the rating increases.
Right.
Anyway.
I was thinking at 18% each year, at some point, we probably are going to have to self-insure some of this.
Yeah, it would be, every year we go, okay, well, come January 1, depending on when they take their rate increases, is, with almost every renewal, it doesn't matter if it's water system, construction, it doesn't matter. We're always kind of bated breath going, can we deliver a flat renewal this year? It'd be great, to get, hey, guess what? It's flat on everything, the property's down $2,000, and we increase values a little bit, There was a time we could deliver that kind of news, but it just that hasn't existed in, 5 years.
Yeah.
So it's a lot easier for us to deliver good news than bad news. So.
Any other questions from the board?
So we're looking for a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve Holly Navarre Water Systems policies from Underwood Anderson as presented for a total of $400,654.39.
All right. I have a motion.
A second.
All right. Mr. Matthews seconded the motion. Any further discussion from the board? All right. The motion is to approve the Holly Navarre Water System policies from Underwood Anderson as presented for a total of $400,654.39. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion passes. Alex, sound like y'all did a lot of homework for this, so we really appreciate the hard work. We certainly do.
We appreciate you guys.
All right. We'll move on to unfinished business, number 2. We have the Club at Hidden Creek insurance renewal, package policies, and again, we'll let Alex explain that to us.
Okay. Talking about the marketing efforts sounds like always a good place to start. Golf courses, where do I start with golf courses? There used to be several carriers that loved golf courses. I mentioned Grundy before. Technically, we go through a company called Philadelphia, and they are the underwriter for the Grundy program. Okay, Philadelphia has a lot of great products. They do a good job. They used to do a lot of schools. They used to do tons of golf courses. Nationwide used to do golf courses. We had a company, Scottsdale, that is essentially owned by Nationwide, that had a really good golf course program that covered wind and hail and all that for tees and greens, including trees and shrubs. That, as you can imagine, went away probably 5 years ago after the couple of storms we've had up here. And then with golf courses comes trip and falls, which is, again, has been a huge uptick in this state. Philadelphia doesn't want golf courses anymore. Basically, the short answer is this. Nobody wants any public golf courses at all. There's very few programs. Philadelphia, Nationwide doesn't want golf courses at all in Florida, period. And they used to have a killer program. I think we had you guys with Nationwide for a couple of years. And next year, the renewal came in, and it was double the premium. So last year, actually, they non-renewed it last year. So we shopped it out. Auto owners, we've been an auto owners agency since we opened the doors. Auto owners are pretty much right anything, and even auto owners now is getting, I mean, really meticulous and asking all kinds of questions like they've never asked before. So all that being said, when we got to market for golf courses, and we write several, the options for said courses are more and more limited. It's basically any niche market. There's only about 3 players in each, really, from an insurance standpoint, that are, I will say, competitive, again, with an asterisk, but they're all really within the same, I don't know, $1,000 of each other. Auto owners has been, like everybody else, has taken some pretty hefty rate increases this year. The club also seems to be performing well. That's probably the best way to put that. I mean, sales seem to be up quite a bit. Food sales are up quite a bit, which is great, which also causes insurance to go up. So the marketing efforts there, there's a company called Fairway Underwriters that has a really good golf program, but they will not do an umbrella policy, okay? An umbrella policy goes over all of your other policies, right? General liability, auto, and workers' comp. Sometimes can go over a D&O crime policy, just depends on the carrier. Fairway has a good little program, but they will not do an umbrella, and they cannot go over any other lines of coverage. And their general liability product was, I think, $31,000, something like that, but they couldn't do an umbrella, so that kind of renders them useless. The only other company, and this is actually a newer program, so new I can't even remember the name of it. The Accelerant program, that's it. And they were every bit as competitive as auto owners until we went to auto owners, and which we also have a really good relationship with, and talked about getting some credits. These guys have been with you. I get it, only 1 year, but they've got really good procedures in place. The claims are low. It's all good, and they gave us a 15% credit, just kind of based on y'all's merit and our word, truthfully. So auto owners took rate increases, just like Grundy did, from last year to this year. But again, also the sales are up quite a bit. So that made a pretty good difference. Let's jump into the property section, okay, because that's obviously could be the most expensive line there. The frontline renewal, yes, $57,000, but as you can see over the expiring, I'm going to call that a flat renewal, okay? I mean, it's up $30-something. That's flat. If it would have been 2 years ago, that probably would have been $15,000 more than the year prior. So seeing frontline flatten out is great. There are these different options because Jeff wanted me to get options on not covering the clubhouse for wind. Do you want to go into the thought process behind that?
Yeah, so the thought process there is and then we started this discussion last year. We ended up, we renewed the wind policy for the buildings out at the golf course, and we knew we wanted to look at it this year. So this year, we did do that analysis, and what Alex came back with was that if we renew the cart barn and the maintenance building, it would cost $16,000 next year for the wind, and about $41,000 for the clubhouse, and that would total your $57,000 premium. But keeping in mind that the clubhouse has a 5% deductible. So our thought process on the clubhouse, and while we want to have the board consider that is if we have an event there, you're 5% before we spend any money, 5% deductible before we spend any money on that clubhouse. That deductible works out to around $120,000 roughly, and then the difference in cost of the premium, as I mentioned, $40-something thousand. So you're really talking $160,000 damage from a wind event before we could use that policy. So I think that's where the decision needs to come in. I mean, I think the coverage for the other two buildings is low enough, and we still have the option of doing no wind. But when we saw the premium for the cart barn and the maintenance building, we think that's a fairly reasonable cost, and think we should probably do that. I think the decision here is, do we want to get wind coverage on that clubhouse? Certainly we would if we did have an event and there was damage, we'd have to pay that, and we believe we have the resources to, for instance, put on a new roof or make repairs there. But there's risk in that, and that's why we're asking the board to make that decision. But that's kind of the thought process, is when you look at the deductible plus the cost of the insurance, you really get to a point where it's just you really have to question, is it worth it? So yeah. That's why I wanted to present those options tonight.
Well, and I presented I used the accelerant program only as a kind of a guidepost, because they were the only other one. The brokers that we go to said, well, we've got these other ones, but they're priced out. I mean, they're in the $40,000 for general liability. So we just took the ones that were the lowest. Again, auto owners ended up being the cheapest, and there's nothing overly special about either program. Okay, it really is just general liability. Third-party trip and fall, bodily injury. Property damage, bodily injury. So, but I have it in there, even though it's more expensive. It's probably not really an option, but at least for something to compare to. Okay, that was the next best liability option. But again, like I said earlier, math has to math, right? And if you just got to meet the deductible, and it's 5% of the building value, and it would be for each building, okay? So you'd have to have some pretty good damage.
Has there ever been any type of wind damage to the property in past with hurricanes or anything?
I believe there was some impacts from, I believe it was Sally. I don't think there was major building impacts. I believe there was a significant effort to clear trees and debris from the course. Okay. And that was done. I don't remember how long. I wasn't here. I don't know how long that took. But I think that was the major impact. That was done, and they were able to, I believe, resume business. So.
But that wouldn't fall under the wind.
That's not covered anyway. The stuff on the golf course isn't covered anyway. So certainly if there's a bad hurricane here, you would expect trees down at the course. Can't have golf play the next day. There's going to be some work have to be done on the course, but hopefully then the building wouldn't sustain too much damage. The other thought we had is, regardless of insurance coverage, if that clubhouse building was damaged, we can set up a temporary pro shop in one of those other buildings. We can take people's cards and get them out, and as long as the carts can run and the course is clear, we could send people out on the course. So we got some options with that clubhouse if we, if it was temporarily not usable.
Now, Alex, I have a question for you about that, about wind damage.
Yes, sir.
Or the wind insurance. So say if we opted not to cover the main building out there with wind this year, and then maybe next year we wanted to consider it again, is it like some insurances, like if you go without it for a year, it's
No,
all of a sudden, okay, so it's
No.
not going to have any effect on
No,
the future premium?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, that's more of a personal lines, like your homeowner's insurance
Yep.
policy. That's where they try to ding you there. Commercial is kind of like we're all adults. If you don't want to insure it, fine. If you want an option, we'll get you one.
Okay.
But it's not going to hurt you.
All right.
Now, does the roof fall under the wind policy?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, the roof falls under the fire too, right? I mean, if there was a fire there, again,
Right.
God forbid, but yes, the roof is covered. Yes.
But it would be subject to the deductible,
Yes,
first
sir.
of all, and
Yeah,
then
on
would they
wind.
also depreciate the roof based on its age?
Not frontline.
Not frontline, okay,
Notice how I said not frontline.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, because on the commercial side now, what we're seeing a lot of is, I dare say this, in the lion's den, but I will take it up with the carriers to say, well, a roof should be actual cash value. I mean, the thing is diminishing every day. It's designed to diminish. You're not going to get brand new tires from the tire guy either, because your tires wear out. But that's what we're seeing is like if the roof is older than, I don't know, maybe 5 years, maybe 10 years, depending on the policy, they are valuing the roof at ACV, actual cash value, instead of replacement cost. But we're seeing a ton of that.
The frontline doesn't do that.
Frontline is not currently waving that flag, no.
But the hurricane deductible
Still applies.
will apply, and that's a big number before we would actually get any kind of insurance check.
Seemingly.
It seems like we could get a roof for that place for under $120,000.
Well, I don't know, it's an
I don't know,
expensive
it's
roof.
pretty big, but when you add that plus the cost of the policy, it's,
About right at the...
But we've already budgeted in our capital improvement plan to replace that roof in the next
5 years
5
anyways.
years
I think we put something in that budget, 250, but, yeah, I mean, that roof has a life on it whether there's a hurricane or not.
So that's kind of the mathing
Right.
there, right? The premium, 40-something grand, plus the $150,000 deductible. You're buying your roof. You
Bank
bought
that
your...
40,000 instead of paying it to the insurance company, sorry, but it just makes sense.
Well, it's not me.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm the guy in the middle.
But
when it used to be 2%, even 3%, it could make sense.
Right.
But everything that's this far down in the county, you're not getting a 3%. If it's a brand new building, we've been able to get some 3%, and if it's masonry and it's just an absolute brick house, we could probably get AmRisk. Usually gives us some lower deductibles. But 5%'s gotten to where it's the norm, unfortunately.
Alex, any thought on why this liquor liability with auto owners doubles, and then you go down to the umbrella with auto owners again, and it's almost triple? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, ma'am. Rate increases, just general rate increases from carriers. But also, again,
Double?
but
Double.
the sales are up too, though. The sales are up a pretty good amount. But yes, our auto owners rep was in, it's been probably a month ago now. Now, he was specifically talking about commercial auto. But they tell us that commercial auto in Florida has been unprofitable for over a decade. And then he came in again and talked about general liability is almost the same. And again, you have to remember it's a golf course. So just like Nationwide, who I had you guys with, we had you guys with Nationwide, they offered renewal last year. We didn't think they were going to, and their premiums more than doubled last year, which is why we moved to auto owners. Well, now Nationwide, they won't even offer. We went to them. You guys want to look at this year? Are you sure? Nope, don't want anything to do with golf courses. Don't want it. So the thought process there is, again, just suits that are stemming from trip and falls. There used to be a coverage. You can get it every now and again called errant golf ball coverage. That's all but gone away now. Claims. That's basically the bottom line. Claims. They were having to pay out on something that they were insuring. And in auto owners' eyes, they weren't making enough to make up for the claims that they were having for golf course exposures in Florida.
Can you speak to commercial cyber and privacy liability and help us understand what the intent of that is, please?
The intent of the coverage, like what does it cover?
Yeah.
I think I'll use social engineering is probably the term I'm going to use first. We all get bogus emails. Essentially, a cyber policy is covering valuable papers. It's covering any wire transfer issues that might be fraudulent. People say, I'm such and such, acting like they're somebody from your bank maybe, and they'll intercept money. That happens all the time. That's usually more with like title companies and construction companies. But you guys have a lot of billing with credit cards, et cetera, et cetera. It could be data breach there. They could get people's personal information, social security numbers.
Cover
Basically,
cyber attacks as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, the light just went on with our clerk of court who paid $880,000 to an errant. They got scammed.
Yeah.
So now I understand. Thank
So
you.
that exact situation, they would categorize that as social engineering, posing to be somebody that they're not, intercepting the wire transfer, and the money's gone. It's with the Arab prince or whoever. But that's what that's doing, and it is based on gross sales. Okay, so I know you see that premium difference there. Once again, the better you do, the more your insurance kind of on some lines, and that's one of them. So it's relative to the sales.
Can I ask a question on the wind again?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so say we have a hurricane and the roof is damaged severely, and then we have a lot of rain on the interior.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, that would fall somewhat under the wind as well, right?
100%.
The interior.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah, the roof's not the only thing that can be damaged. You could get
With
damage inside the
that,
building.
right.
The term is called proximate cause, what caused the roof, what caused the damage inside the building.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the roof gave way. Well, why did the roof give away? Well, the wind blew it. Okay, proximate cause.
Yeah.
People go into wind-driven rain. That's usually something that comes up a lot. They do try to throw wind-driven rain exclusions in policies, which I'm glad we brought that up. I do not believe Frontline has a wind-driven rain exclusion, but we are seeing that. We are seeing more of that, believe it or not.
Well, that could be a significant cost, though, for the interior.
Correct. Oh, yeah, you could have a significant repair bill in addition to the roof if the damage was severe enough, and that's part of the risk.
Right.
Yeah, I think, we're looking at, if we went with option one, we're looking at about 17% increase in our total insurance for the club. But I currently don't think I have a stomach to go without wind coverage for the main building out there. I think, substantial, but yeah, I don't want to be the one on I don't want to be the board to vote. We're not going to cover the building out there, and then all of a sudden we get hit by a hurricane and it takes out the roof and it destroys the building. So.
And I've had a home lost in a hurricane before with Ivan. So I know, and I don't think, at that time it was like, well, did you have separate flood insurance? Did you have a separate wind? And you just never know. And it ended up being pretty significant.
Alex, which one of these four options that we have in front of us would you personally suggest if you own this company, if you own the golf course?
Well, I'm not privy to your bank account. But I totally hear what you're saying. It would be hard for me to go without wind. I'm also a little bit of a rebel, so I would maybe test those waters to go without wind again. But I don't know what your reserves look like. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But it is hard to say, well, let's just go without wind. But it's a pretty well-built building. But again, I don't want to be the one that says, hey, go without wind.
No, I understand. And I was just asking your opinion.
I totally get it. I am always
obviously
going to tell you, you should probably buy the wind coverage.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the right answer.
I think we just looked at 18% increase for the water company. Now we're looking at least a 17.2% increase for the club, and I think at those rates, there's going to be a time when we're going to have to say we're either going to start self-insuring some of this stuff, or but that's just my opinion. I think.
Well, thus, I say it's four options. It's not really four options. Thus, the two options is to just to lack of better words, but chew on it a little bit, and just to wrap your heads around it. I just think that I think that's what insurance has become is everybody's just, I say everybody, most people have just, well, we have wind coverage, we'll just file the claim, right? Well, you have a deductible, okay? And then you have potential co-insurance penalties. I don't want to get into that, but that's why we go over the values of these buildings every year, because if you're not insured to within, let's call it 80% of what the adjuster and his exact-to-make calculator says, then not only do you have a deductible, you have a co-insurance penalty, okay? So the insuring agreement is that they pay and you make sure that you're insuring it to the values that it needs to be insured at. And they've been pretty tight the past 2 years and have questioned all of us. My friends that are in insurance, we all talk about the same stuff, is that we were having to do replacement cost estimators on every building, right? Because the underwriter is saying, that building is undervalued, okay? Well, of course, they're going to say that. They want more rate, right? They wouldn't even release a quote until we would provide some kind of a replacement cost estimator. You guys have got great engineers on staff, so they're always good about knowing what the cost per square foot is. So they've never questioned us on it because we're in that range, okay? But like on other accounts that we have, we are adamant to say, no, that's what the insured wants, and we've tried to talk them out of it, but that's what they want. They will not release a quote unless we issue them a replacement cost estimator. The reason for that is they say, well, if that's what they want, they're going to have a co-insurance penalty, okay? They're still going to sue the carrier. So at the end of the day, they wrote the policy and said, well, if you want a co-insurance penalty, fine. That's how the insurance company saw it. Well, the policyholder sees it very different.
Right.
They hire their favorite attorney, and they go after the carrier, and they end up paying out anyway. So that's why they were like, we're not even giving you a quote, okay? Nothing in writing until you send us a replacement cost estimator. So that's just, I say all that to say, thinking about more hands-on risk management, even for your own home or your autos or whatever, the insurance conversation has gotten clearly, as we're doing now, just a lot deeper.
Right.
You're really thinking about your money and what is my money doing instead of just sending it to a carrier, right? Like we're adding it up here. You're $200,000 in before they cut you a check. So let's talk about that. And that's just my job, is to make sure we talk about it.
So, Mr. President, this particular one that we're talking about, including the wind, is an increase of $22,898.15 going forward. That added to item 1 that we voted on of $63,079.39 brings us to a total increase for these new premiums of $85,977.54.
Thank you. And it looks to me like the dollar-wise, the biggest increase was the liquor liability. And
That's general
Liquor
liability
slash
and-
general. both.
liquor slash
Yeah.
general liability. okay.
Yeah, which is food
So,
sales.
Food sales. now.
Yeah, food sales, rounds of golf, it's
And
anything
auto,
that the club is doing.
and auto owners was the best option.
Yes, sir.
Wow.
I'm not going to say by leaps and bounds. I mean, again, the Fairway Underwriters, the marketing summary is in the back. One of our brokers, again, they had a couple of other options. I didn't list them there because they said the premium just wasn't in line. They gave us the accelerant option because they said, oh, this is a new program. Let's try that. Because the ones that they would have normally had, Scottsdale will still quote it, but I think they were in the upper 40s on premium. Don't absolutely quote me on that, but it was more, so they didn't waste their time.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the reference to non-admitted carrier, Alex? I know that comes with that $2,500 deductible, but
Yes, ma'am.
what is the definition of non-admitted?
A non-admitted carrier basically is not backed by Florida Guarantee Fund, so it really has to do with financial strength more than anything else.
So in option 3, we're looking at an equal estimate to option, really close to option 1, but there's a deductible on option 3.
Right. That's what I was saying. It's really not an option. I wanted to put it in there just to show you guys the next best general liability and liquor liability option with that accelerant program. Again, it's not really an option, but I just wanted you guys to see it just as a comparison, as this is the next best.
And before we vote on this, Mr. Krigler, could you just review what the scenario looks like if we don't vote for wind, what the plan would be if there were a claim?
Yeah, so we would have to be above the deductible to make the claim, and then we would have to use essentially cash in the bank to make any repairs.
And the deductible, again, is
5% of the
5%.
value of the building, it's around $130,000.
And Holly Navarre Water System would be responsible for,
None of it.
not the insurance part of it, but say there was damage to the building if we didn't have the wind?
No, the Club at Hidden Creek has what we think is adequate reserves in its
They
bank
do?
account to pay
Okay,
for storm
all right,
damage.
that makes a difference, yeah. That makes a difference.
Any further-
And who knows what it'll look like next year? I mean,
Right.
it would be great if next year, again, the fact that yes, it's expensive, but the fact that the front line came in, again, I'm going to call that flat with no increase is a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to hit on, we were talking about lining updates. We have already done that on the commercial property, excluding the wind. It says renewed at the very bottom of that bracket. That has historically renewed, I think it was the 19th.
It was, May. We already did that. That was under my spending authority, so we renewed that, I think, on May 21st. But we were able to extend that to
Yes.
July 1, 2026.
But that's why it's 22, okay, is we bought 4 or 5 weeks
Extra. Yeah.
extra, okay? That's the only reason why it's that much more. I think technically it was slightly less. I want to say the full term renewal was like 19 or something. It wasn't anything crazy. But the only reason why that shows an increase over last year is it's, I don't know, a month more insurance. Had that been annualized, it probably would have been closer to 19. So maybe $800 cheaper than it was last year.
The question for the rest of the board, how do you guys feel about going without wind insurance?
I'm okay with going out.
Without the main
I would
building
like
out
to
there.
save a little money between Holly Navarre's increases and then these increases. I think it's I think it's worthwhile, especially if we got to come out I'm gonna round up $200,000 before we can start.
Right.
Yeah, that seems like
Um,
cash all the way anyways.
To quantify that, if we were to go with option 2, that saves $17,911 over the current premium, and that subtracted off of the obligation in option 1 would give us an exposure of an increased premium of $45,168 total between those two, over and above what we already pay.
I'll make this comment too. At any time, if y'all vote to want to take the clubhouse off and you get itchy, it can be put back on.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's not like we have to make this decision and we're stuck with it.
As long as there's no name storm.
As long as there's,
I was gonna say, as soon as we see that hurricane headed for,
Thank you, Jeff.
headed for Navarre, we can call you.
I
Your
almost was caught in that in 2023.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have gotten around to that statement, but thank you.
We got a golfer.
So within reason, if y'all decide to do that, okay, and you feel like maybe we need to do something.
I don't think you would have proposed it if you didn't.
You can always add it back on, okay? Again, as long as there's no hurricane in the Gulf, okay, or Frontline doesn't shut down.
Maybe not for $57,000, but.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it'll be whatever the rate is. Yeah, it'll be whatever the rate is.
Yeah.
Usually during the hurricane season, there's usually a named storm that's somewhere floating around.
That thing is surrounded by all them trees.
Yeah.
Anyways,
But I just wanted to say that.
the trees take the
I've had
ground.
clients that
they spend a
have
week
said,
cleaning it
you
up.
know what, we got to thinking about it. I think we want to,
Yeah.
let's go put it back on there. And it wouldn't be the full term premium. They would just prorate it for the rest of the policy term, okay? So I say that with haste, all right? But it can be put back on as long as the carrier is not in binding restrictions.
Okay. We have a member at the podium. I want to recognize Mr. Bill Thiel real quick.
Bill Teal from 2842 PGA. I just might want the board to remember that these are two different entities.
Sure.
So don't confuse Holly Navarre Water and the Club at Hidden Creek. And the CEO has said the Club at Hidden Creek has the reserves to handle this if you go without insurance for wind. And I think that it is time, when you're talking a couple near $200,000 before they're going to write you a check. You definitely need to consider that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Mr. Reynolds, how do you feel about going without wind on the main building out there?
I think we could try it, especially since Alex indicated if we do get kind of worried about it, we could make an adjustment. But for the bottom line, we're looking at all these increases. If we can save on option 2, that brings down the current premium from $109,000, I'm just rounding, 600 to $91,732. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, here, right?
Yes, sir. That's right.
Option 2, right. So that's saving us $17,911 there. We can reduce that off of the, because the bottom line, it's a lot. So yeah, I'm okay with it.
Well, the way I look at it, it's 40,000 more to insure it for wind. I'd rather bank that 40,000, and we're going to have probably $100,000 deductible if we do have a claim. Well, we've already banked the 40,000. You're going to have $100,000 deductible. You got to be at 140 before you would even see any benefit. And I just know from prior storms, Aaron and Opal and all that, they have more tree damage than anything. The building itself is usually fine. I think we could absorb that, and there's enough reserves, and I think liquid reserves are close to $1 million out there right now. So I think it'd be a smart move to self-insure for wind.
Okay. And I think the overall goal, at least for most of the board members, is to have the club at Hidden Creek be self-sufficient without the water system having to give them any money. So if we could help them save money on that, I think you guys have convinced me. So
It can be worth having a contractor, even maybe your own engineers or a third-party engineer to have other clients that have gone in and kind of bolstered, if you will, right? Do their own inspections, maybe hire a contractor to say, what could we do better to, clip this roof, strap it, whatever. Probably not cost that much money with their suggestions, So take maybe some of the saves and you try to bolster what you got.
right.
A lot of people are doing that too. If they have the ability to, if they own their building and don't have to carry it for the bank. So.
Any further questions or discussions from the board?
I feel the same.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we go with option 2 as proposed by Underwood Anderson.
I'll second that motion.
For $91,732.15.
All right. Okay, we have a motion and a second to adopt option 2 in the amount of $91,732.15. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Hearing none, motion passes.
By next year, all of these dates for the club, again, we've got some renewing in September and November, I believe, which we talked about. Those will be short-termed. So by the time you guys get to see me again, those dates should all be 7/1s.
Okay.
So hopefully it'll be a lot cleaner.
Be helpful, yeah, it certainly will be.
Barbara appreciates that.
Absolutely.
Trust me, we appreciate it too.
Yeah.
Talk about it for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Alex, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate all your hard work. And
We appreciate
your
you.
company
Thank you.
working with us, absolutely.
Yes.
All right, we're going to move on to new business. We'll start with CEO update, Mr. Krigler.
Yeah, 2 brief items here. We're looking at starting an energy audit at our wastewater treatment plant. That's a free service that we can get technical assistance from the Florida Rural Water Association on, so they're going to help out with that. First step on that is meeting with Florida Power and Light. We did that on May 28th. So the next step will be getting some of that data over to Florida Rural Water, and they'll have to make a site visit. So it'll probably take several months for them to go through this process, but we hope to get some good recommendations out of it and see what kind of improvements we might be able to make out there in terms of energy usage. So that'll be a developing thing. We'll continue to update the board on that. I did also want to update the board on our influent force main there at the plant. We were looking to have, if you recall from the draft agenda sent out, we were going to have an item on there to do some of this work on the east side of the plant, but we're holding that because we did not have all our bids come in. But I do want to go ahead and brief the issue. If you'll recall, last June we had a failure on the pipeline coming in from the west. Our crews had to work all day on a Saturday. They made a repair, and we had to construct a temporary bypass on the force main coming in from the west. Well, subsequent to that, we budgeted in 2025. If you give me the clicker, let me see. We budgeted in 2025 for a repair of that force main. We started that investigation process to scope that work here recently, and we found some more concerning information. So we'll start here on the picture on the right. That's a pit that was dug on the force main. That picture's looking south to north, and you'll see that grate in the top of the picture there. That's the influent pump station. So this is the main force main, everything coming into the plant. As you go from right to left on the pictures, you'll see as they excavated down on that pipe, you'll see there's a hole in the top of that pipe. That's essentially, that pipe is corroded. It's obviously in danger of failing. So Clinton and I saw that, we discussed it, and we think the best thing to do is to do another construct an emergency bypass on the east side because we can't isolate this. So we can't make the repair that we wanted to from the failure last year with that hole there. There's just no way to isolate the system. So we're going to construct another bypass around the east line. We are still gathering those quotes, but we want to bring that back in July, get that work done, and then do the actual pipe replacement. Probably won't happen until 2026, but we'll have both sides of the pipeline covered. If there's a failure, we'll be able to bypass and keep flow moving. So not a good discovery, but we think we have a good plan to proceed. So like we're getting those quotes in. We have one quote in. We want to get at least one more, and the contractor needed some more time to reach out to some of his subcontractors to put that quote together. So we want to make sure we have, two good quotes before we bring it to the board. And we'll be monitoring this. If something were to happen, you'll hear about it as an emergency, and we'll do a board action without a meeting. But we're hopeful this will make it till July. We'll get it approved through the normal channels and then proceed with the repair.
All right, thank you, Jeff.
Mr. President?
Yes.
I wanted, on behalf of the board, to thank Mr. Krigler for following up on these energy audits. That is going to help us a lot. And will that include the spray field?
So we'll start with the
Electricity.
wastewater treatment plant. Typically, for utility, the wastewater treatment plant is your biggest energy user. After that, it's probably your lift stations. We've got, our well houses, those well pumps use some too. But typically, a lot of the savings typically found either at the plant or in your actual rate structure. So in our conversations with FPL, we're going to make sure we're even on the correct rate structure, which I think we are. And I don't know that we have much other options there, but we'll look at that too.
That's good. I think I saw that the electricity is running about $7,000 to $8,000 a month at the club at Hidden Creek, so I was kind of concerned about maybe bringing that down if possible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So we're going to move on to Director's Update. Finance Committee updates. Ms. Pam Hardy.
Yes, the Finance Committee met Thursday, May the 15th, to evaluate the financial reports for April concerning the capital improvement projects, as well as comparison between the budget and operating and maintenance expenses. The total revenues have decreased in comparison to 2024, but that's primarily due to grant proceeds for the Eglin project received in 2024. The total expenditures for general and admin expenses also decreased in 2025 compared to 2024, and this is largely due to a pension contribution that has not yet been made this year. We haven't made that, so. And so Mark Miller will provide an update on the comparison between the 2025 budget and operational. And then Carmen will report on the progress of the capital improvements for April.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Ms. Hardy. Capital improvements, Ms. Reynolds.
Yes, I attended the meeting on Thursday as well, and we are in line. There is nothing out of the ordinary to report, and that concludes my report.
Okay. Moving on to budget O&M, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, through April, which represents the first third of the year, most all of our budgeted items, are coming in that 33%, range as far as revenues and expenses. The only expenses that, really are out of line with what we had budgeted had to do with the election, the cost of the election due to it having to be moved, and then also legal fees are, higher than we had budgeted because of the case that we're dealing with now. So that's everything else.
How much higher are legal fees this year?
I don't know the exact numbers on them, but we're percentage-wise a good bit higher than where we were year to date, last year and with what we had budgeted. So,
right.
And no reflection on Will down there. It's just they're necessary due to the circumstances, but they are over budget.
think the percentage was pretty high. What was it, Barbara, 40,
We were at 52%.
52%? That's what I
52%,
thought.
yeah.
We're at about 22,000 this time last year over.
Yeah.
$22,000 over, right. So just to reiterate to our members is that because of the snowstorm, we certainly had to pay more legal because of having to delay the election and so forth. But most of this is coming from the lawsuit filed by Ms. White. And I want everybody to understand that this money is being spent because of the lawsuit. So we'll move on. You have anything else?
No, other than that, budget-wise, expenses were right in line with where they need to be budget-wise, so we're good.
All right.
And I think the bottom line with our total expenses are pretty much in comparison with what was last year.
Okay.
There was just a couple of factors, but that's going to be kind of compensated for this year.
All right, thank you. And we'll go to the pension 401k, Mr. Matthews.
I looked at Barbara's snapshot, and everything looks fine. It's just kind of flat, no major losses to report, so it's
Okay.
chugging along. All is well.
And we don't have any payouts either, do we?
And no payouts.
I didn't hear.
Yeah. They're coming. The Santa Rosa Regional Reuse Project, I'm going to defer this one to Mr. Krigler, if you could give us an update on that.
Sure. So on June the 10th, we had what's called an all phases meeting. That's the meeting where we essentially have all the entire project team and project participants with the county, Gulf Breeze, DEP, Water Management District, and also Naval Air Force Base. So that was a beneficial meeting. We had a lot of folks attend remotely, but we had a good turnout for that. I shared some pictures of our progress on phase one, and then the other project partners updated where they are for the upcoming phases, which haven't started yet. As far as our project, which is phase one, we have essentially for phase 1B, we have essentially all the pipeline installed. I feel like we have about 95% of the pipe work done. The wet well at the plant is installed. It's not complete, and we are still waiting on a good bit of electrical equipment for delivery. So we're still looking at probably first quarter of 26 being able to finish the project. And like I said, that's mostly just waiting on some of the lead times on the electrical equipment.
Nice. And I apologize I couldn't make that meeting on the 10th because I was holding my new grandbaby.
That's a good reason.
I didn't say that. All right, we're going to move on to the Club Hidden Creek Management Board, Mr. Miller.
Yeah, Club at Hidden Creek Management Board met and went over the financials and several other items. We actually had a pretty good rebound for April and May as far as financially. It's kind of bringing us back up. We had a slow start to the year, but we're kind of getting back up to where we need to be there. They continued to keep expenses in check. They did a big aerification project. They need to do that every year. They did that over the Memorial Week time frame. And so that project, I think, is completed. And got a few equipment issues they're dealing with, but other than that, the club's ticking right along and doing well.
Thank you very much. Next item here is Fairpoint Regional Utility System Representative, Mr. Krigler.
Yeah, not a lot to report there. We are progressing on construction with the booster pump station projects. We have ongoing construction work at both sites, the site adjacent to Midway 2 on 399 and the site at Midway 3 there, adjacent to the fire department down there in Midway, where 399 comes into 98. So I'd say we're 25% complete on those. Those are kind of just kicking off. We're still waiting on a lot of materials to come in. But those are progressing well, and that's really it for Fairpoint right now.
All right, thank you. Municipal Engineering Services, Mr. Phillips.
We continue to stay really busy, and we continue to have no luck hiring anyone, so about situation normal for us for the first part of the year. We've spent a ton of money advertising all over the southeast, and we're not going to do that anymore. We're going to try a couple other avenues to see what we can find, but people just aren't out there right now that want to move, so the market's kind of tight.
Yeah.
But we continue to stay busy, that's for sure.
Okay. All right, thank you, Phil. And moving on to item number 3, finance, review of April 2025 financials. Mr. Krigler.
Thank you. Yes, we'll let Barbara cover our April financials.
All right, so for April, we had a total revenue of $1,310,997. Total expenses of $1,084,172, with a total net income of $226,824. Overall good month. The April water and wastewater system capacity fees were up compared to previous year. The April water and wastewater sales were up from previous year, although they're down for the year. And that's basically due to the delay in the rate increase, I believe.
Right.
And the committee did a great job. Thank you guys very much. We're still under budget on expenses, and that's great.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like it was a pretty strong month. Yeah. Any questions from the board for Barbara? No? So, do I have a motion to approve April 2025 financial statements?
Motion to approve the financial statements as presented.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
I second.
Mr. Matthews, thank you. All right, if there's no further discussion, we have a motion and a second to approve the April 2025 financial statements as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, here none, motion passes 5-0. All right. And it looks like we have an operations discussion to have here. WWTP blower number 2 replacement. Mr. Krigler.
Yes, so this item is another one where we have been getting quotes here at the last minute. We had this on the draft agenda and then pulled it off on Thursday. We didn't have that second quote on Monday. Yesterday we received a second quote. So the digester at our wastewater plant is served by 2 blowers. One of those has failed. Our maintenance staff there tried to fix it. They were unsuccessful. This is a pretty old piece of equipment. I think the date on it's 1988. So we've gotten good service out of it, but it's time to replace it. Each of those units is sized to do the job, so there is redundancy there, but we're down to 1 now. So if that one were to fail, we'd really be in trouble. So we want to go ahead and get this approved. That's why we're putting this back on the agenda now that we have our quotes in. So we got quotes from two suppliers, and we're recommending that we go with TSC Jacobs in the amount of $58,632 for a replacement blower. And I'll note that this will be funded from our general wastewater treatment plant repairs budget line item. So there's plenty of funds available in that line item for 2025.
It looks like the second quote was $80,503, so that's quite a difference.
Yeah.
Just over $20,000 difference.
Yeah, and we asked for a third one, and they haven't responded yet. So we just have the 2 right now.
And we need to get this done.
Yeah, we're working on a spare, and this is still 12 weeks out, Jeff?
Yeah, 12 weeks out.
Okay. So, all right. Do we have a
I'll
motion?
motion for approval.
Okay. We have a motion to approve purchase of blower from TSC Jacobs in amount of $58,632. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a second from Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion from the board? All right. Okay, I'll just repeat it real quick. We have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of the blower from THC Jacobs in the amount of $58,632. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, motion passes. All right, we'll move down to engineering. Mr. Phillips, you have anything else for us?
Just a couple things. One, you may have noticed there's no water loss report this month, and you may have also noticed that we've made a miraculous recovery in the I&I. Donna refused to put the water loss report in here because it shows she magically produced some water out of thin air. And this report showing that the I&I is reduced is also believed to be inaccurate, but we did want to show all the other information. She continues to have problems with the reporting of, water sold and water use out of the software. They just, continue to see weird stuff. So anyway, she didn't put that in there. A couple other capital improvement projects that we didn't mention tonight. The new booster pump station. They have not really started construction yet. We're still in the submittal process. There's a ton of submittal there. As all of you know, the tank is done, but it had been sitting there empty. We are filling that tank because it will best fight the forces of a hurricane if it actually has water in it. So we are slowly and frustratingly filling it. As you know, we're building that booster pump station because the pressure issue in the central part of the system due to Fairpoint versus the original hydraulics. Those same issues make it really difficult to fill that million-gallon tank because we just don't have the pressure there. So Clinton and Ryan continue to, try and isolate that and use every trick that they have up their sleeve. They've got the water, I think, kind of at the bottom of the bowl or partially up the bowl at this point. I think if we can get it about half full in the storage part of the tank, we'll be okay through hurricane season. So we're working on that. I think that's it.
Okay. Well, Clinton will get you out there with a manual pump. You can do that.
Or I was thinking buckets,
We'll put you up on top and we'll have people pass it up to you.
Sky green.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Phillips. Time for member forum. I don't see any names on the list here. And we have gone through everything that's on our agenda today. So do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Mr. President.
I have a motion?
Second.
And I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, aye. Meeting adjourned.